Howell.
Here.
Commissioner Nicely.
Here.
Chairman Coleman.
Okay, we've got Carol Brown's going to come up and pray for us, and Commissioner Knisley is going to lead us in the pledge of allegiance. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It was actually Carol Wynn.
Carol Brown, please stay.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Carol.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord, for America. We thank you for our city of Lapeer and our county, Lapeer County. We ask your blessings on it, Lord. I thank you for these men that have stepped up to serve our community, Father God, and I ask that you bless their families and protect them, Lord, and help us do our business here today. And in Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out this morning. And Carol Wynn, I apologize. Carol Brown, thank you for stepping up. Yeah, I know too many Carols. Okay, do we have anything to add to the agenda this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add this request for action from animal control. If we could put that like 4A under new business.
Okay, we have support.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, consideration of draft minutes from the February 16th Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll move approval of those minutes.
I'll support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carried. Distribution and review of overnight travel requests should be coming around here. If anyone has any questions on those, please let one of us know. Department head updates. Are there any department heads that would like to comment this morning?
Good morning, Commissioners. Emil Joseph, Lapeer County Front of the Court. Have some statistics I want to share with you. Our Scale 41, which is our annual statistics, are due in May. I have some initial ones. I hope to have a more thorough presentation for you sometime in mid-April. But presently in 2022, for 2022, the Front of the Court caseload had 4,208 cases. We had 419 bench warrants issued. We conducted 598 referee hearings. We mediated 121 cases. In comparison to 2021, we had 4,302 cases. We had 350 bench warrants issued. We conducted 503 cases by the referee in 2021, and we mediated 120 cases in 2021. So relatively comparable. And we are always trying to reduce our caseload when applicable to maximize our performance standards. If we have a situation where it's arrears only, non-charging obligation, the person who owes the money is unable to pay due to incarceration, health, what other statutory situations that we cannot enforce, we periodically review our roles and sometimes convert those cases to a civil judgment. So it reduces our numbers, maximize our efficiency so that we can obtain more money from the state of Michigan in our grant. With that, I hope to share some more figures with you in April. Any questions I can try and answer this morning? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Any other department heads like to comment this morning?
Good morning, Commissioners. I have two CMH board members I'd like to introduce. I believe they'll be speaking to you during public time, but Mrs. Kay Morris and Mrs. Donna Shelton in the second row. So just want to welcome them to the commission meeting.
Thank you. Any other department heads like to comment this morning? Okay, that moves us to our first public time. Is anybody from the public who would like to comment this morning?
Alan Pierce, Hadley Township. I believe that I live in the home of the brave. I believe in founding of this great country. and their protections of all, including all of our freedoms. I spent 20 years willing to defend and die, if needed, for everyone's rights. Today was a day that I saw one person stand up for her rights and refuse to put on and wear a mask to be given the opportunity to better her quality of life. She was turned away for that decision. Shame on them. I am proud of her stance, and I encourage each and every person who hears these words to do the same and stop the insanity of dictating to others what they can and cannot do as a result of false science or other people's opinions. When are we going to stop the nonsense and use our God-given common sense? We are under assault of our rights to freedom, and I am not going to stay retired from protecting our rights, your rights, everyone's rights. I will do whatever I need to do to my dying breath to fight this fight.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Anyone else from the public who'd like to comment during the first public time?
Good morning. I'm Kay Morris. I have served on the Mental Health Board for 18 years. I'm here to request to be considered for a reappointment. My time serving on the board has really been an extension of my professional commitment to the persons that we serve. My family moved to Lapeer County about 50 years ago. It is definitely home to us. Having grown up on a dairy farm in northern Bay County, this is very similar to my home. I have learned through the years serving on the board that one of the most important characteristics of a serving board member has to be the ability to listen carefully, collect information that will be necessary to make decisions. And this information comes from many sources. It comes from our CEO, Lauren. It comes from keeping in touch with the legislation in Lansing. It comes from reports from our department heads. It comes from visitations at conferences. And without knowing what we're talking about, we cannot make good decisions. We uphold the purpose of our appointments, which is to serve our people in Lapeer County the very best way we can. You're all aware that we follow the mental health code from the state. We follow the bylaws of our county and of our board. But there's a lot of information to assimilate. When I was first appointed, I was appointed to the Standards and Policies Committee. The transformation that I've seen over the years in development of a very, very well-organized and efficient system has been a highlight. So I hope to continue that service as well as serving on committees. Obviously, the very most wonderful experiences you have is when you serve on a committee with the people that we serve. Because that is our purpose, that is our commitment, that is why we've chosen to serve on the board, and I hope to be able to continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kay. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the first public time?
Good morning. I'm Donna Shelton, and you've reappointed me to the Community Mental Health Services Board. This will be my first full term. I had finished the term of another member, and so I'm looking forward to that. You should know that I've been a volunteer at Community Mental Health since 2013, serving on the Quality Council and the Recipient Rights Council. I also volunteer at Broward Space for the Medicare Medicaid Assistance Program through the Valley Area Agency on Aging, and I help people navigate those waters 2 afternoons a week in the space that community mental health shares to me for that project. So I'm busy and I'm happily engaged in all of that. I was born here back when the hospital was a single floor, so you know it's been a while. But I've tried to get away several times and I've always returned. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the first public time?
Carol Wynn, Marathon Township, thankful for these two ladies because they kind of settled me down after Allen's. Anna Pierce is one of my heroes, let me tell you that, and so is Carol Brown. This week, we know there's been a lot of action going on in Lansing. They've, my understanding, the word maybe repealed the age in which a student must be able to read. The conspiracy theory is that, you know, they will no longer teach cursive and will dumb down the age of reading so that these students never learn how to read the historical documents that we have in this country. That's one conspiracy theory that I believe. I believe a civil war is being encouraged and they are using the government to start it. The word civil relating to the affairs of a city or government. Lawmakers are being duped. It is not a civil war to end slavery. It is actually one to enslave. We are enslaving the one who believes in their God-given rights by the one who doesn't. There are many prayers to be said, pick one. I ask the Lord to forgive me for failing to take action when I have been prompted by the Holy Spirit to do so. I made so many phone calls these last couple weeks, and I sent emails to our lawmakers. Some staff members answered, a few were answering machines, and at least one had a full inbox. There were so many constituents that have called their lawmakers. After yesterday, especially after yesterday, this has happened for 3 or 4 years now, someone needs to teach the staff members in Lansing how to civilly hang up the phone. At the Marathon Township meeting last night, we, the public, were joined by a Boy Scout troop, and they were completing a merit badge by attending a board meeting. The leader, after the meeting, said this was his first attendance at a board meeting, and he was I hate to guess age, but he was 20 years younger than I am. And he continued with saying, shame on me. For some reason, I think we're gonna see him again. And we may see some of these young men again too, I hope. They were a little bored, but they may show up. And also the road commission was at the meeting last night, and I just wanna thank, I wanna say his name is Dustin, but I'm not really sure. Very timid, but he's always well prepared and always is able to make such, give the answers to the questions. And our supervisor in Marathon Township is doing a wonderful job with the road commission and keeping the public aware of what's going on. And we appreciate that because we have a mess on Coneyville Road. A mess. If you'd ever like to drive down that road and see what's going on, please be my guest. If you'd like to stop by for a cup of coffee, you can do that too. We're right next door. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the first public time?
Good morning. My name is Galen Burnham. I'm from North Branch. I've lived in North Branch Township for about 51 or 52 years. I'm here to reference the appointment to the Senior Programs Advisory Board. Since I've retired, I've realized that I think we need some input from the North Branch area for the senior citizens. So that's my goal today. Most of my background is in EMS. I've been in EMS, or was until I retired, for about 40 years, and enjoyed every hour and day of it, I guess. I've been on several committees in the county. I listed everything on this application, so I'm not going to stand here and belabor everything, but if you have any questions, give me a holler when you get ready to appoint, and hopefully I can help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for wanting to serve.
Yep.
Anyone else from the public who would like to comment during the first public time?
Hi, my name's Anna Pierce and I'm from Hadley Township. My husband was the one that was up here just a while ago, and this morning when we had to go somewhere at 6:30. And I was very excited because I was going to get my cataract removed. Excuse me. We had been told that we could stay in the car and then I could mask when I went in later. I thought, cool, because I had already been psyching myself to wear a mask because I have real difficulty with that. Could be mental, could be medical. I really don't know. I don't care. I don't want to wear a mask. So anyway, when I got in there, I had to go in just to let them know I was there. And apparently the state had just been there the day before, letting them know the mandate, whatever it is, has not been lifted. I'm going to talk to these people because why? Everywhere. Are we wearing masks? Everywhere you go. It's very, very rare that you're seeing people wearing masks. We're doing nothing. We put on a mask. Well, I could not get my cataract removed unless I would wear that mask. Handed it to me. I'm sorry, there's something in me. I can't do that. So, of course, I had to tell my husband when I went back out because he was out there because he knew he couldn't go. He couldn't go in. He figured I was going to be all right though because we had already been told. But I had to tell him that no, I can't have this done today. So that's why he was a little, aggravated and sees that this is a real problem. Well, anyway, so I can't see your expressions yet, okay? But like my son, who just told me he lives in Upper Michigan, he said, Mom, I don't know if I'm gonna stay in Michigan. He's gonna have a baby soon. He said, I love Michigan, but I don't like Michigan at all. I don't know where he's gonna end up. I don't know if there is a state where you can. I'll have to talk about Eric, won't I, in the next public time. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Anyone else from the public who would like to comment during the first public time?
For the political sodomy that you are going to commit on your constituents during this term, and that's my public opinion, and it is my opinion. What you guys don't realize is already you're the laughingstock of the political machine that sits above you. Around the courthouse, this board is known as carrying the 4 horsemen that are going to save us from all the evils of the county government and the world. Everybody talked a good game when they were running. The only person that's ever kept their word sits right there. And when he met me privately and looked at stuff that I have screamed about for years in this county, when I flipped open the briefcase and he saw I wasn't just talking out my blowhole, he looked at the paperwork and the look on his face was, oh shit. You guys have a nice day.
Anyone else from the public like to comment during the first public time?
Good morning, Gabriel Lossing from Deerfield Township. First, I would like to, if I could, thank you all for your integrity. Thank you all for your honorability. Every single one of you, I hope you know that there are many of us that support you and will always be here for you. I'd like to also point out that you were elected to manage the money of the county, right? And our Constitution only allows you to spend money on things that promote the general welfare. Those books in the library, I have to ask, do they promote the general welfare? If not, should they be in there? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public who would like to comment during the first public time? Okay, we're going to close the first public time. Brings us to Health Department's request to approve the marijuana-related grant agreement between the State of Michigan Department of Licensing.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, before we go into that for a minute, Galen Burnham, my appointee to the Senior Citizen Board, spoke a minute ago. The clerk had asked me, even though each commissioner appoints their member, they asked if we get a motion, so it's in the record that he's been appointed. So before we start, I'd like to move that the committee acknowledge that Galen Burnham is appointed as the Senior Citizen Board member for the 2nd District.
I'll hang it on support.
It's not really a motion, it's a declaration from you.
Fair enough, as long as you get what you want.
It's not at the full board, but
Okay,
we'll figure out how to get it entered into the record.
I just made a declaration, so there you go.
Thank you.
Yes, well said.
Okay, back to the health department. Ms. Hamilton?
Since we're making declarations on appointments, I just want to get this out of the way that I have appointed Gabriel Lawson for the GLS Region 5 Planning and Development. And we'll have the record vote at the full board next time.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Haskins?
Good morning.
Morning.
Do you have any questions regarding the first one? Todd could not be here today. I have him in training, so I'm here for Todd. Basically, this is the third year that we've had the grant. The grant is required to be directed towards medicinal marijuana and educational outreach type things. And that is what we've used the grant for the last 2 years, and Todd is looking to continue that this next year.
I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
Do we have support?
I'll support for discussion.
Any discussion? See no discussion?
I do have a discussion.
Yeah.
I want to just bring up the idea of, on the back side of this,
I'm really hard of hearing, I'm sorry.
on the back side of this grant application, there is a description of projects. It talks about geofence that goes around these facilities that tracks people when they come in and out of facilities.
It doesn't track people, but
Tracks
it does
phones.
track the phone, but it doesn't collect, because I made sure I asked Todd before I approved the application to begin with, and made him put it into the application, that it did not track any personal data or information.
So is this a requirement in order to get the grant
It is,
that we
it
do
is
this?
not a requirement, it is the county's choice of how to use the funding. What it does is it just provides some educational information to those who are going to those marijuana distribution places.
But this is what the grant is gonna be, that, the grant is money is gonna be spent on this geo.
Some of it is on that, and there's additional for staff time for Todd to work with the places to try to establish some educational sessions type things with them, so that we can provide direct education to those who would like it.
I mean, certainly providing education makes a lot of sense. I'm not a particular fan of the whole marijuana situation that exists in our county. But I am concerned about the point that Commissioner Mast is bringing up. Collecting people, I'm sorry, I'll try to speak louder. Collecting people's individual phone numbers as a government agency.
I asked, and I was told that it does not collect anything, including the numbers. What it does is it sends out signals to the phones that happen to fall into that, walk into that area. That was my understanding when we started this 2 years ago as well, that it doesn't collect that. It just sends that information out, and therefore anyone who happens to be in that area, the messaging would get on their phone. But my understanding, like I said, I asked specifically about that because I don't like to have my personal information collected. That's just me. But I know that there are most people in the public probably, and maybe I shouldn't make a statement like that, but probably do not want all of their personal information collected. And so that was my question, and they said, no, it is not collected.
So there would be no list maintained of these phone numbers.
No, we would never know who actually received that information ourselves.
I see, thank you.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, I was on the board when this was originally passed. The old board was also concerned about that. This is a very normal process that's used. it's just like when you go on your computer and look at shoes, and then all of a sudden you get all this stuff on shoes. It's the same kind of thing. It's not really collecting personal information, it's just targeting an audience.
So just so I'm clear, so if I were a medical marijuana person and I walk beyond this line, I automatically get this, it's a text message or what is it?
If our contract was operational at that time, yes, because the money's earned enough for it to be running all the time. But you could potentially have messaging show up on your phone if you walked into or within a certain perimeter of the medicinal.
It would be a text message, that's what the person.
I'm sorry?
It would be a text message, the thing that a person received or had.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so can I make another point? If this is not to collect data from people's cell phones,
correct.
In the section where it says impact of funding, it says agency will plan to mine the data from this geofence project over the last several years to better target locations in the county that have a cluster of medical marijuana users that is higher than other areas of the county. So it's got to be gathering data. It's got to be tracking where these people live, where, you know, all of this stuff. It's got to, it says it right there. That's the purpose of it. So it is tracking data.
Yep, no, that's a good question. And I'm not sure that I can answer you. Show me what section you're talking about
So
again.
in the, right on the very back side of the grant application, the very next page, 1, 2, 3, on the fourth paragraph, the very last line of the fourth paragraph is where it says agency will plan to mine the data from this geofence project over the last several years to better target locations in the county that have a cluster of medical marijuana users that is higher than other areas of the county.
My understanding is that it could, you know, I really am not sure on that answer, to be honest with you. I know that there are even with like Facebook and such, it will collect how many hits there were.
Yep.
And so my guess is that it's collecting that it hit a phone. But like I said, we asked the company specifically and it said it was not collecting that data. And I know that Todd, and I will make sure and verify that before he does any further. My understanding that it does not collect any specific phone or personal data. And I will document for you right now that I will find out if that is the case, then I will stop the forward motion. But my understanding, like I said, was clearly from the company that we would not have any person's name, phone number, et cetera. But I know that sometimes, even with, like I said, Facebook, it can pick up how many hits there are on a site.
Sure.
Okay.
My next thought is, or question is,
sure.
This geofencing, does it cover any other stores that are right next to these dispensary stores that?
It would be a certain perimeter around the store, so if they were within that perimeter, it could.
Okay, so if I'm going to a shoe store right next to the pot store, I walk through this geo fence, I'm gonna be labeled as a marijuana user and I'm gonna be part of the statistics, whether I go into that store.
How would you be labeled that if it's not collecting your phone number?
But it is collecting data. It knows where I live in the county and where I come from and where I reside. That's what it says on this, in this paragraph. So if I walk through this fence, even though I'm not going to that particular store, I'm gonna be a part of this data collection, part of this system that's labeling us. So that's just some of the concerns.
No, I understand your point, but we were clearly told, so I'm not sure why. And I guess I will have to check with Todd, who could not be here, and see what he has to say about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Massey brings up a good point. So if we're going to the shoe store next door and I'm a 15, 16-year-old kid with a cell phone, I have no idea what's 3 or 4 spaces down this little strip mall. And I get an alert on my phone about marijuana. Well, maybe my 15-year-old kid's never heard of marijuana. So now that's in their brain. Why am I getting this alert? So it brings up a whole nother, can of worms on
First off,
Why
I'd
are
be
we-
really surprised
it's like
if a
putting it on a
15-year-old in the
billboard.
county has not heard of marijuana.
Right, 12 years
But-
old, right, whatever, I mean,
Right, right.
but it doesn't mean that we should be targeting their cell phones and giving them a message about the health effects of marijuana. So what is the
It's
reason?
one of the least invasive ways, frankly, to get messaging to folks that are using the medical marijuana without directly confronting them and being there. So,
And what's the,
and just providing, it's general information. It's not, you shouldn't be using this, because these are people that have had it prescribed. I mean, that's what it's targeted at. So in other words, the messaging is just on general facts about marijuana use.
Well, if these people have been issued a medical marijuana card, shouldn't they already have this information before they even get?
I'm sorry?
If these people that are getting this information, if they have a medical marijuana card or have been prescribed this medical marijuana, they should already have this information. So every time they cross that line, they're getting pinged with the same information again. And it does say in here, and you said you're not sure, so if we need to make sure before we infringe on somebody's constitutional rights to privacy by, collecting their data unknown to them, and we don't know that that's 100% sure. Is this an opt-in or out program as far as this geofencing? Is this something that is mandated by this grant? I mean, if you say that you want to you don't want to participate in this, you can still get the grant.
It is what, we can get the grant and use it for other purposes.
Yeah.
But what we would have to submit another document to them altering how we were gonna spend the money, but,
Right, so there is an
but
option.
that could be
So it
done.
doesn't deny you
But
the
that can
money.
be done.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Does it only target medical users? So I brought up the case of a 14, 15-year-old kid. Does it go to anybody's cell phone
Nope.
within the geofence?
We have to write the grant and such that our education is directed towards medicinal marijuana. Obviously, anyone who walks into there for whether it be medicinal or recreational is gonna get the message. I mean, that's very apparent, because I just said that people who walk in that area will get the
So
message.
it's not just people that are medical users?
I'm sorry?
It's not just people that are medical users, it's anybody that walks?
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we supported it with discussion purposes. Do we have additional support to pass this?
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, obviously, we need some more information. Kathy's gonna look into it for us. I'm not ready to pass a motion supporting it going forward until we hear what the answers are to these questions. I don't know what anybody else is.
That was my point exactly, is I am not comfortable with this data collection, and I know they told you it's not a data collection, but it says it right here on the paper that it is collecting data. We gotta get this figured out. I know that Facebook does that, and anytime you go online and you search something, I know that it does that.
I don't have a
But
problem
is that a
with-
good thing?
I don't
We
have a
want that.
problem with getting that information for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So why don't we postpone this or table this until?
I know we answered it 2 years ago when we first did this, but I honestly don't remember.
Probably her guy being here would be the ultimate, and somebody who knows.
I
more
can't
about
hear you,
it.
Brian, I'm sorry.
If we could table it until next week or whatever, until you have some time to get some information and bring your guy back that actually is dealing with this.
Hopefully he will, yeah, I will just have to drag him out of the training. He's doing the QI training that I sent him to, so quality improvement.
So how many weeks is that?
It was supposed to be four weeks, I believe, and I know he was into that 2 weeks ago as well, so, I'll check with him. No, it's not that he's there all this time. It just happens to fall, today's training happens to fall during the board meeting. It's been on Thursdays.
Okay.
So I can find out from Todd, for that matter. I may be able to find out for you before the end of the board meeting, if I can get him on the phone out here.
Okay, so I'll rescind my motion And I'll make a motion that we table this until more information can be provided and Kathy can bring it back when she feels appropriate.
I'll support that, and that's the reason why I wanted to bring this up for discussion, so we could kind of clear the air on this in a public forum too, because I'm concerned about the geo-tracking. And,
Geofencing.
Or geofencing. Section one after another, maybe, I don't know. But,
Yeah.
so if you give us more information,
It
definitely don't want
means
to deny
totally
the grant
different to
money
me.
to you.
It-
If it is a problem, then maybe it can just be eliminated and.
I need to find out why Todd worded it the way he did in the application, and I didn't catch that.
Thank you, Kathy.
I caught the first and made him check with the company, and I didn't catch that last statement, so I apologize for that.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, so we'll take a vote for the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The motion tabled. It brings us to a request to approve the Lapeer County Health Department Plan of Organization as required for state accreditation.
This is something that they require periodically, that we just have the board review. The basic information has not changed over the years, except for updating for the most part, the equipment that we have and the staff and that kind of thing. Those are the bigger, the main points that I had to update when I did this, submit it.
We have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Any discussion?
Just want to point out, Kathy, under section B of this organization, governing entity relationship. I'm sure when this was written, we were still making weekly board meetings, but since we're bi-weekly, on the last line under governing entity relationship.
That's because I had this done before.
That's what I
You
thought.
changed the.
So I just wanted to point that out so you can update that
Okay.
little detail.
I can update that before I send it to the state. Thank you for mentioning that, because I didn't even realize that I had that in there, so.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion approved. Sheriff's Department?
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yep, and one more word. I live by notes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a request to approve the purchase for 20 new replacement ballistic helmets.
Yep, thank you. Pretty short and sweet. This one has actually come in, this is off of, kind of like we talked about before with the fundraising piece. So we had motor unit, dive team, and SRT team that did fundraisers. It was all things for the public and everything. So this money's coming from now, or coming from that fundraising stuff. So it's no cost to the county.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion approved. B, request to approve the purchase of renewal crash reconstruction data software and traffic reconstruction equipment.
So this is on a couple of years ago, we purchased all new reconstruction equipment for the countywide. We've since then, that was the part where I told you where we've now kind of done a team. So we have Lapeer City, our department, Metamora, that all have reconstruction. So it doesn't matter where in the county something happens, they go out and assist with all agencies. This is the equipment we bought. Because of the main part of this renewal of data is when we have a fatal or a car accident, we're able to pull the black box out, show speeds, if signals were used, if they were braking, all the other stuff. This is just the renewal of that licensing that comes up every year. This is being paid by drug forfeiture, so again, no impact on budget.
Sheriff, I got one question on that. So you say that you guys team up, Sheriff's Department, Emily City, Almont, all these different entities. So is everybody having to buy this equipment or this lease?
We own the equipment because it's our stuff. So what they did, and I'm glad they did it, but so Lapeer City, they bought their own equipment too, so that we'd have backups. Or if you have a major scene, this equipment, even though it's reconstruction, it's laser and there's a million different pieces to it. So you could use it on a crime scene also with it. So we have new stuff, Lapeer City has new stuff, Metamora is trying to get new stuff, but this is the licensing for ours, for the sheriff's department.
We have a motion?
Motion to approve it. I'll support that.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chairman, something to think about down, only because of these two things happen. I know some of us individually have had conversations with it. Jackie and I have talked about this. I think one of the things to look at maybe in the future is one of the things with the county is as in our approval or spending policy on what we do, what our threshold is. Like you take these things, but I was trying to look at, we were originally back, I don't even know when that changed.
I don't know, a couple of years ago, but we were at $500.
So basically for meetings, for your time and for obviously the department heads and stuff's time, it was anything over $500 had to come to a board meeting and get approval. So it makes it very tough for the departments and what they're trying to do, especially us, even with the millage piece of purchasing equipment and things that we're doing with it. So what I wanted to see, we moved it a couple of years ago from $500 to $1,000. And in talking to a lot of the other counties, that's very rare. So I actually, a couple of days ago, when we were looking at these, because of the threshold of each pricing of them, I got on the listserv for all sheriffs, and we all talk every day, and there's obviously with 83 counties. And I asked them, what is your spending policy that has to go to Board of Commissioners? And just for example, I wrote some of them down. Alpena's threshold is $5,000 before it goes to, then the Board of Commissioners have to do it. And there's different ways with it. Benzie's $5,000. Van Buren's $15,000. Jackson's $10,000. Newaygo is $30,000. Hillsdale's $7,500. St. Clair's $10,000. Midland's $5,000. Missaki's $10,000. Livingston's $10,000. Sanilac $3,500. Muskegon's $5,000. I can go through all of them. They're all higher like that. A lot of them are set up, which I think is a good idea. If I could put my 2 cents in for thoughts or conversations down the road, Jackie and I talked about this. A lot of them have thresholds too, where the department or the electeds have a threshold of, let's say, in my example would be $5,000. And then up to $10,000, you have to have the department head or elected and either the county administrator or the CFO, the chief financial officer that approves it, and then $10,000 over the Board of Commissioners have to get approval for that. I think it's important because it slows down our process and a lot of the purchasing. It makes it so that we're coming in front of you nonstop with agenda items too that are already budgeted, so that money's there. We have that in there. My personal recommendation, which would be really on the lower scale of the majority of these, would be $5,000 to raise that threshold to $5,000, from $5,000 to $10,000 to get the approval of however you want to write it as the county administrator or county administrator and CFO. Then after the $10,000, everything would have to come in front of the board. Just something to think about that I think in the future we probably need to look at. We've talked about this before, but it makes it very tough for us in a lot of situations because these are budgeted items, but we still, because we're at $1,000, everything we do, we have to come in front of you or put on the agenda and wait until that time. So something just to put out there that I know we've talked about a little bit individually before, but I thought I'd throw it in because I had 2 situations on the agenda today.
I thought we raised that to 2,000. We didn't?
I don't think so.
Well, it's 1,000.
Yeah, it's 1,000.
Well, 1 to 2,000.
I think there was something
You
with
just have to
county
have
control.
Free bids.
Free bids.
1 to 2,000 free bids, just informal bids.
With the administrator's approval.
Right, and that's what I think the other part was. We went 1,000 for the department head. You could do up to 2,000 with the county administrator's approul, and I think that's.
But Sheriff, if we didn't have this, we wouldn't get to see your charming face.
See, another positive for you. This is a win-win.
Well, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be up some, but one of the things that is kind of nice, at least we know what's going on, what you're spending money on.
Sure.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't maybe look at adjusting it, but it is kind of nice to know what you guys are doing.
Sure. No, and I get that too. So just something to put out there because I know some of us individually have talked about it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, my mind has escaped me. Do we vote on B?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, brings us to Administration and Finance Department, we have a request and authorization to pay February invoice to Shipman Fournier for labor-related services.
I'd make the motion to pay the February invoice from Shipman Fournier for labor-related legal services.
Support. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion approved. Request to approve the renewal subscription from SHI for the budget book software.
I'll move it.
I'll second on support. Any discussion?
Yes, I got, Jackie, I know this was new. How's it working out?
It's great. It's phenomenal. And we're not even utilizing it to its full potential yet. So I'm thinking in '24, we're gonna have a good shot at getting the budgeting award, working with a consulting firm. We're well on the road to getting that award for budgeting, which is phenomenal for us. But also internally for department heads. It's a great piece for them. So, but we're getting there. I hope to have a department head meeting soon where we show the department heads what information is available to them. So it's doing great.
Good.
It's on our website. If you ever want to look at the '23 budget, you can click on it, all kinds of graphics. It's a beautiful thing, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion approved. Commissioner Howell, District 2 Senior Advisory Board, I think we've already covered that.
I think so. You got what you need. Okay, good. All set.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is Amy Sell Talent, update on County Controller.
Mr. Chairman, we added 4A. Remember? The RFA order.
Okay, yep, that's after, but okay. So we have an RFA from the Peer Animal Control. Animals, additional information, you want to come up and speak on that?
Good morning, Rachel Burton with Lapeer County Animal Control. I have with me today my Animal Control Officer, Officer Stephanie King. On February 6th, Lapeer County Animal Control did execute a search warrant. We seized a herd of Black Angus cattle. Today, I have before you guys basically a plan as to what should happen with these animals. So normally, if this was a dog or a cat, this animal would be put up for adoption or whatever. Because of the value associated with these animals, we basically decided that either you guys should open bids, which I have sealed bids to present to you today, or we need to decide if these animals need to go to a public auction. So the owner of these animals did relinquish ownership. That's some very good due diligence on Officer King's portion of that. The Lapeer County prosecutor also has a court order in which we are able to sell these animals now. The last case of this magnitude with this amount of animals cost us over $60,000 in boarding, transportation, and feed. Because of some finagling on our behalf with boarding and community members that are willing to donate to us, this will cost less than $10,000 and we'll have these animals for about 30 days. So if you guys are open to it, we can discuss it. If you want to debate whether they go to public auction or we reevaluate some bids, I have all the information for you.
Any discussion, any comments?
I think because of the cost associated with these type of animals, the longer you keep them, the more money it costs. How many bids do you have, Rachel?
8.
Okay. And you have 8 bids, plus both of you met with Marlette Livestock Auction owner, co-owner?
Right, so we did meet with Bob Philhart, he's the owner of the Marlette Livestock Auction. We met with him in person on Monday, had some communication with him because we wanted to give him a fair shot at these animals, because typically, if these were to go to public auction, they'd be going to his auction, he would be reaping benefits from them. So we did have a discussion with him, we included him and actually invited him to bid or present an offer so that he didn't feel like he was excluded in any way.
And didn't he give you some sort of estimated value of what
Right,
these
so
were?
I have in your guys' packet that was given you this morning, I have your national price for beef right now. Just for your reference, Michigan's price of beef is slightly lower than that. I think it's $1.64 in your packet. And that's for a live live cattle, so it's price per pound for a live animal. So if they were to go through Marlette or Croswell, like stockyard auction, that would be like your target you were hoping to hit. Because of the animals that we have, they're obviously not the healthiest of animals, which is why they ended up with us. So we did have Bob basically give us an estimate of what he thought they would bring to market. He was hopeful that they would hit $1 per pound. In my personal opinion, I think that's being generous because of the price of beef, because of how things are fluctuating, and because of the condition of these animals. I think that $1 is high. So I do think that you guys should at least open the bids from individuals, and hopefully we might be able to incur our costs that way. If you guys don't think that those are valuable enough, then we can consider the public auction. We did get them to donate transportation of those animals, which is a $6,200 cost savings.
The stockyards donated the transportation.
If we choose that route.
If we do, okay.
Yep.
And if we open the bids, we're not bound to accept.
So we have the right to reject all bids that is in the invitation to bid that everyone received. So.
I think it would make perfect sense to open the bids and see what we got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys want me to read them and pass them? What's the easiest way for you to see it?
Probably.
You need to open them and just read them off.
Read them,
Okay.
it'd be easy. Do you want her to read each individual one off, or do you want her just to open them and
I say read them off, that way we can all hear at the same time.
Okay.
We don't have to individually read it.
Mr.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to interject briefly while you're contemplating that decision. Under the statute, that when a county proceeds to the sale of animals that are surrendered, and we just got that order, the stipulated order entered by the judge at 8:00 this morning, so that literally just happened today. We're good to go forward with that decision process, but bear in mind that any proceeds in excess of the costs of custody and care, maintenance of the animals that the county has incurred, reverts back to the municipality or the township general fund. So just when you're contemplating that, there's just that consideration to bear in mind. Yes, sir.
How about your cost, John, as the attorneys that got would you reimburse for them?
Well, typically that would fall under the general counsel, but we could assess, I believe that we could assess costs for the time that my office is expended in getting the order entered and all that additional stuff.
Seemed fair.
Sure.
So you don't have any issue with there's no concern that the county definitely owns these animals?
Yes, sir. I have the copy of the signed order that was entered by the judge this morning. The defendant's attorney had signed off on it. But because the county's going to proceed to sale rather than a typical surrender or forfeiture would just be this dog or cat, it's taken and it gets adopted back out. There's really not any profit involved in that. But under the statute, when you proceed to a sale, there's a few extra steps we have to hit. One of those is having a court order entered by the judge, and that's what we did this morning. We got that signed. So we're compliant. The animals are ownership of Lapeer County Animal Control at this point in time. The county can proceed to whatever means you folks decide is best to step forward to the sale process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I understand is, so any money in excess of the care and maintenance of these animals would go to the township where they were confiscated from or
Yes,
taken
sir.
from? That would be Hadley or?
So you guys do have my cost, it's in your packet. It's a little over $10,000 where we stand right now. That doesn't include any additional transportation costs. If we choose a private buyer from one of these bids, each of them was asked to provide their own transportation so that we do not incur any more costs. Just so everyone knows. Okay, so for the first bid, I have for all of them, all 27 head, $14,547.50. For 8 cows and 19 calves. For the 8 cows, I have $5,408 or $9,044 for calves. Cows and heifers with blue ear tags first, at least 3 total of 5 head at $8,400 each, and a total of $2,000. I'm assuming that would be for heifers. That's a little bit unclear. This is a detailed bid from the Phil Hart family, all of Marlette Stock Auctions, basically saying that the estimated market value of the herd, if sold at public auction, which they would hope to sell them this Saturday, would be essentially the calves and feeders are 60 cents to $1 per pound, with heifers being 500 or 1,200 per head. Upon arriving at our barn, all cattle will be vaccinated and cows will be ultrasounded to determine pregnancy status. It is believed that 2 are pregnant, which can be detected at 30 days of gestation. Fees associated with this process are $15 per head for those pregnancy checks and $10 per head for all others. All cattle are required to have an RFID tag to be sold at auction. So some of those cattle do have RFID tags. We do have a premise location number. Some of the younger calves do not have an RFID tag number. It would have to be tagged to be sold at a public auction, which incurs a cost of $7 per head. So that would be that we're using their premise number to be auctioned in public. Hauling will be provided free of charge from their current location and will be transported on Friday, March 10th. Selling commission applies to gross sales, and checks for sale proceeds will be available immediately following their sale. So if they need any clarification, they've given us permission to contact them.
There's no estimated value through them.
60 cents to $1.
60 cents to $1 for the younger
We don't know
animals.
poundage, we don't know.
Calves and feeders.
It's guesstimate, okay, and he was looking at the cattle, trying to determine the weight, so that could be, you know how that is. He thought 12.2 was the number for all of them.
So for your guys' clarification, when we're evaluating an animal from weight, we're basically assessing a body condition score. Okay, so if you're not familiar with livestock, a 1 is about the lowest you can be without them being dead. Okay, so our animals from 2 veterinarians were a 1 to a 1.5. So if that makes any sense to you, these cattle are very, very thin. So typically, my heifer should weigh 1,500 or 1,800 pounds. She's realistically more like 1,000. Okay, these calves that were born last summer, you know, they should be closer to 400 or 500 pounds. Right now, they're maybe 200 or 300 pounds. So they are underweight, which sometimes it's a little hard to evaluate your pound when you're looking at the frame and realizing that there's no muscle mass associated with the normal height and frame that you're seeing. Okay. All animals, heifers and calves, for a total of $6,500. All cattle for a total of $10,250. Calves at $350 a piece for a total of $1,400. All cattle for a total of $8,500.
Cool, is that it?
So that is all of your bids. So you guys will basically be deciding, A, if we're gonna entertain public auction or private sale. If we go through private sale, is that individual seeking calves, heifers, or essentially all of them?
The very first one was $14,000. That's for the entire herd.
That was the highest, yes.
As is. That's higher than even the estimated stockyards.
Mhm.
There's no additional cost, no shipping, nothing. They come pick them up, it's
No.
done.
That person that put in that offer is that they can come and ship them on Friday.
that was 14,527, is that correct?
357.
$14,547.50.
Ideally, selling the whole lot as a whole is much more
Yeah, that makes sense.
beneficial, so.
Yeah, breaking them up and loading them is a little more difficult.
It's a pretty simple decision.
Did the person who did that, are they gonna require help loading them, or?
So I did speak with that person. They told me that they would bring an additional 4 or 5 people to help load. And they potentially have some panels and gates that we could use to separate animals as needed. So we did also get some panels donated specifically for this, because in case you have never dealt with cattle, they love to run through fences. So for us and for your safety, we did get some panels donated. We also purchased some so that we have them for future cruelty cases. But we do have a plan to help load and do that safely so that we're not causing further injury or losing animals.
So there was some that we're talking about the cows and the cattle and whatever, and if you add those numbers up, this is still the highest, correct?
Yeah.
According to mine.
And that number is higher than our cost so far. So what the prosecutor said, that is relevant, that some of that money may have to go back to the township which they received their general fund.
Commissioner Howell?
Looks like a pretty easy decision to me. I mean, some of these bids really aren't responsive. I mean, we can't be selling half a dozen here and half a dozen there. And clearly one bid is quite a bit higher than the others. And if it's higher than because my initial thought was just Senator Marlette, but if we're getting a better price this way without handling them, it makes a lot of sense. And I can tell you as a guy that raised Hereford's cattle, Angus are a pain in the neck. We can get them out of there without hurting anybody, doing well.
Even in their condition, they are.
Yeah, we've never executed a search warrant in which it took us 6 hours to load all of the animals. So it was a lengthy day for us.
So my question is, so this was a cruelty case. Obviously, the person that owned these animals didn't take care of them. Has there been any kind of vetting or conversations with any of these potential bidders to make sure?
So there is a nutrition plan that both vets basically established with myself as to how they should be appropriately fed. So these animals should remain on a high protein diet. They should remain on hay and water to essentially give them adequate care until they reach an appropriate market weight. Some of those animals are pregnant. We know at least 2 of them are pregnant. So they may need a little bit of additional care because throughout their gestation period, they have not been given proper nutrients. So, that we've had these very frank discussions with everyone that put in bids. Like, these are not animals that you're gonna go out and harvest and put on the grill tomorrow. That's not what's gonna happen. They have to gain weight, they have to be given time. This is months and months of good quality feed that they need. So everyone is very clear on that. Everyone has been made clear of the feeding requirements and the time that they're gonna need. If you're looking to make it profitable, it's not profitable tomorrow until they're fed. So.
Okay, Commissioner Howell?
I'll move that we accept the high bid for the entire herd.
I'll support that.
Any further discussion?
Could we include the bid amount in that motion? Could you include the
Sure.
bid amount in that?
14,000 and what?
547.
Yep, $547.50.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so we have motion support. Any discussion, further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion approved. Thank you. Okay, it brings us to Amy Sell talent update on the county controller administration or administrator vacancies.
Thank you very much. Good to see you all again. I wanted to provide a brief update and then look forward to discussing the candidates in closed session following this. We had, in my view, a very strong response rate. We had 58 applicants. Of those, 7 of them we recommended further consideration. We are also looking at tentatively having interviews on February 17th, although I want to have a discussion also about, because I know there's at least one conflict, so I wanted to see what might be the best approach to handle that, so it's a discussion item. Also, in terms of next steps, our plan is to finalize the schedule after we determine the dates and the finalists. And then we would be putting together a press release to share with the public the bios and photos of the candidate, of the selected finalists, as well as the schedule. Because the interviews will be held in open session. So we'll be working with the rest of your wonderful team at the county on the logistics for that in terms of location as well as, again, the schedule. I'll be providing everyone, you all, information next week with, in addition to the schedule, a list of suggested interview questions, information about guidelines around interview questions, and evaluation forms, so that after the interview happens, we will be able to gather that information and provide that to you, so that if we do stick to a date around the 17th, a decision could be made, deliberations would be made in public session at your March 23rd meeting to determine next steps.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Kathy, do you have some additional comments?
I do.
Okay.
Whether it's enough, I'm not sure, but I have a little better explanation for you. It does not send text messages. I misspoke. What he said was that when they cross the barrier, I got him to step out of the training for a minute. When they cross the barrier, it pops up a message in social media, which makes more sense to me. And I remember talking about this 2 years ago, and I had forgotten. I apologize. 2 years and heck of a lot going on this year. But it pops up in their social media. They then have the option, if when that message pops up, they can, and I mean, it's part of the social media, you know how things pop up, of clicking on a link if they so choose, that would take them to information such as on safe storage of your marijuana, basically to keep it from getting into the wrong hands of children and others. The health effects of the marijuana, such as secondhand smoke, that kind of thing, and the impact that it has on youth, and where to call for help if you need help. He said from a prevention standpoint, which is where he comes from, it's not, in his opinion, a bad thing that youth can see this and pick it up, because we have suicide rates, we've got drug use, opioids, all kinds of stuff amongst the youth. And so it provides still that education to whoever clicks on that link. He said the data collected is somehow they can tell how many times that fence was dinged. But he said that he'd been told that it was not by phone number, just that it dinged it. And then they can also tell by those who had clicked on the link. As far as location, it's not home location, it's which facility. This facility had 10 dings, this one had 25, where it crossed the barrier in those particular facilities. I don't know if that helps or not, but it's the information, so.
Is there any questions?
I guess my only concern is with this is the whole, just the overall look of it. I don't like it. I think we are, our Declaration of Independence says that we are all endowed by our Creator. We are all endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I do not have the authority in any way, shape, or form as a government to infringe on someone's liberty, individual liberty. So if we are collecting data on individuals,
which
we do not have that authority. So I would say we need to change this language and completely remove the idea of
Okay.
collecting this before I would be comfortable voting for anything like this, because we don't have, and us as a board,
Yep.
we are not elected to oversee and collect and manage people. I mean, this is just crazy to me that we can, and we are willing to, as a government, to track society or people. I mean, with liberty comes responsibility, and I think people have to understand that if you want freedom, you have to be responsible.
I have no qualms with
Right.
striking that entire statement.
Okay.
And so how do we know that that's not gonna be used?
I'm sorry?
How do we know that won't be used? Just because you're
You know
taking
that it won't be
the wording
used?
out, we're supposed to trust that.
All I can tell you is my own integrity. I think that if you talk to Jackie and others that have worked with me, they know that if I give you my word, that I'm not going to do it.
So you would have control over a state
I have
geo-grid.
I have control over what Todd does with the grant and whether he goes about collecting data, yes.
So this has nothing to do with the state, correct? This
us as a
the
county, just the facilities in our county.
Sure. So the state does not mandate this nor control this
The state does not mandate, this was our proposal on how we were going to use the funds.
Okay.
So if we're going to use them differently, I don't see that we need to rewrite it for that because we just won't do that part. But if we're going to use it differently, then I would have to submit a different proposal to the state.
Okay.
But no, the state, each
So we can-
county that submits their proposal, we're telling them how we plan to use it. And then we're approved based on our plan. In this particular grant, they're very picky on, we've gotten calls to change one word on this particular grant.
Yeah, I just don't think us as a county, we shouldn't even, we should not be tracking people. I understand that there is there's information out there, but the whole idea of us being completely monitored by our government, I don't like that. It's not we don't have the
I
right to
get
do
that,
that.
but realize, I just wanted to reiterate that we would not have any information on any person.
Right.
None at all.
I understand.
It would help him as far as outreach and such as where the greater numbers are going. It would help him more to determine where he's going to target his educational materials and who he's going to approach for his brother.
I have a strange question. Is this something you implement with, liquor stores and things like that? Because in my personal opinion, alcohol is much more destructive to society than
Well,
marijuana.
liquor is another story, and we do have a program that works with the liquor stores in that they are provided, all the liquor stores are provided education on what the laws are for such. And then Todd does have a staff member who will go in and try to buy as an underage. If they try to sell, then it is reported to the state. I will tell you though that Todd goes around first and educates. That's the whole purpose. I mean, we're not trying to catch people. We're trying to prevent it from happening to begin with. And we have not had a single thing this last year, is my understanding, because he's gone and provided that education. And by the way, Todd is always nearby. We don't ever send someone in that could be in a bad situation.
Any other discussion? Comments?
Do the same thing with this.
So am I clear, what you're saying is we just delete that section out of the contract?
I'm gonna delete that last sentence from the impact of funding. I'm deleting the part where it says agency will plan to mine the data.
So you have to get permission from the state to do that,
I'm
correct?
sorry?
You have to get permission from the state,
To
submit the new
delete,
wording. get
to
approval
delete
on-
that one line?
Oh, yeah.
No, we just won't do that piece. And I will let them know that we've deleted that one line from the thing, just so that I like to keep things on the up and up. And that way they then are clear that we will be doing this project, but not that piece. Just so that they're aware. I know that just deleting that piece though is not going to, prevent them from, letting us follow through with the grant. There are other pieces, if we had totally done away with it completely, I would have had to rewrite the grant, but not for that statement.
So even by taking that out, when somebody goes to a shoe store next door, the alert's still gonna show up in their social media?
If it crosses the barrier.
Right.
If it crosses that geo fence. If it's that close. I don't know if there's any shoe stores nearby. I don't go to the facility, so I don't know what stores are nearby, sorry.
That's fine.
I know you're using it as an example, but yes. If it's the crossing that fence.
I like
That
shoes.
triggers
so I
the
bring it
social
up.
media. What's that?
I like shoes, so that's why I bring it up.
Oh.
So,
One
any
of those
discussion,
necessary
comments?
shoes.
With that removed, are we comfortable passing this now, or do we still want to?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I'm talking the rest of the board. Kathy, is there a time limit on when you have to submit for this grant?
Well, technically, they were hoping to have it signed by after this meeting, but that was before you changed how you were doing the meetings. So they've been made aware that it will be another 2 weeks before we can submit the documents or submit the signatures,
Okay, thank you.
the approval.
So by waiting doesn't jeopardize the grant at all.
No, they're not happy, but, because they want to get things going. The grant runs through just at the end of September. But, I mean, we have board policies and such that have to be followed as well, so. The same as with the plan of organization, I technically was supposed to upload it by the 20th. You won't be finally approving it until the 24th, so I had to call and let them know that that was gonna be delayed a few days, so.
So what's your motion, Bill?
I'm asking if the board, with those concerns about the tracking and that statement being removed from it, do we want to now move forward and pass this, or do we still want to leave it alone?
I'm good with getting it done, I don't care. If you gotta make a motion, I'll support it. Where you guys at?
I don't like it.
I'm against tracking people. I know that that's the way the world is now, but I don't like that. I don't think we have the authority to do that. So if we can do this without collecting data, without all that stuff and being overlords, then I'm okay with it.
We can.
Okay.
Because our biggest goal is getting the education out there. If it's going out, if we can't track it, we can't track it. And like I said, it was not people and individuals, it was numbers at facilities. But yes, we can do it without that.
Just remember, it's first step. So we have a motion, or no?
I'll make a motion to approve this with removal of the geofencing section of it.
Removing that one statement, so you're saying, yep. I'm good with that.
Any further discussion? Lynette, can we do a roll call vote?
Of course, we're just acting as committee of the whole, so actually the decision will be made 2 weeks from now.
Yes. Commissioner Mast,
Yes.
Commissioner Zender,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagedon,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Howell,
Yes.
Commissioner Nisley,
Yes.
Chairman Coleman.
No. Okay, thank you. Okay, I think it brings us to our second public time. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment during the second public time?
Mary Marcus, Arcadia Township, and I'm wondering if the county has information on the maintenance of the train tracks that run through the county. I recall that it used to be a major artery for the transport of hazardous materials between the US and Canada. And I'm also wondering about the training of emergency respondings in the event of a bad thing, such as what happened in here in Ice, Ohio.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the second public time?
Alan Pierce, Hadley Township, once again. For what it's worth to the board, for 23 years after retiring from the United States Army, I worked for a defense contractor as the facility security officer for that facility. My job and my responsibilities were to maintain and oversee all security measures towards all classified information that we held within our facility, and to protect it from getting away from under our control. So I have some information that is recent enough to where I feel comfortable to come up here and just put it into your ears. Geofencing area, we had some at our facilities that had a geofence around it. And what that geofence did was took anybody entering that geofence area, it took the phone itself that they had on their side in that area. It recorded the electronic number of that phone, which is tracked back to an individual who pays the bill, who bought the phone, who has the service, and that went to a hub, which was then bounced to wherever, and it could pass through 3, 4, 5, 6 hubs before it actually got to the facility that actually received this. Alan Pierce was in this area with his cell phone at this time, at this date, at this location. Okay, all those hubs that all this signal bounces through, this information bounces through, might be secured, might not be secured. This is exactly how foreign governments have been totally decimating the security of the United States for over 25 years that I know of. They select a hub that is not secure, and they're putting trackers into those systems unbeknownst to us until somebody actually checks the entire system, takes the time to do it, find the device that might have been manufactured in China that has a call home and fly. The same thing with these stupid Dominion machines. We don't know where the signal ends up going to. We don't know how it can be messed with. That's I commend you for standing upon the fact that I don't want to be tracked. Okay, I don't, because I know the consequences. I've had to fire employees for trying to get stuff out, for trying to do things stupid. For what? For money.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the second public time?
Just to follow up on the track, I'm looking at the proposal here, and it says that it's going to track recreational activities, so what dispensary the person went to.
it's tying probably a phone number to somebody who's a registered medical marijuana user. I mean, that's who they said that they're gonna target. And then as far as their addresses, it's by zip code. So I think that the information that Kathy would be mining is, does the person live in Lapeer 48446 or Emily City 48444? That's as specific as it gets. So if she wants to educate these people, you want to target Lapeer schools or Emily City schools or North Branch schools or whatever it is. I mean, that's as wide an area it is. It isn't narrowing it down. I mean, I understand Alan's concern that everybody who carries a cell phone, you're getting tracked everywhere you go. You look on your little Google thing and you see that blue dot, you're being tracked right now. So if you want to eliminate Google, go ahead, do that. Now, the other thing I want to follow up is on when you guys passed your gun control resolution a couple of weeks ago. We put safety caps on, children's aspirin because we don't want kids overdosing. You have a fence around your swimming pool because you don't want somebody inadvertently doing that. So it just makes sense to use common sense things that, prevent accidental type of incidents like that. It isn't so much murders that I'm worried about, because if somebody wants to murder somebody, they will. It's more or less suicides. That's the number one form of death that gun violence causes. I mean, that's the number one cause of death for children. That's a leading cause of veterans, that people, they have access to weapons and you only have to think of it, and within 10 minutes, you act upon it once, So that's my concern of, with gun violence. It isn't the murders, it's the suicides. And I'm pretty sure we all know somebody, somebody who's been fallen victim.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else like to comment during the second public time?
Mark Wynn, Marathon Township. When I go to the drugstore, they give it to me in paper form. What's the problem with this drug that I'm gonna take? It's simple, just when they go pick up their bag, there's a little note in it and says side effects are. No big deal. We don't need jail fence. Second Amendment, I'm all for liberty. I don't like emptying my pockets coming into this place. I don't think anybody needs to empty their pockets to go talk to the clerk, do all that stuff. Courtroom, that's a different deal, and I know the judge has power. I think the commissioners ought to get these meetings out of this building if we have to empty our pockets to come in here. I think it's disgusting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the second public time?
I always say, oh Lord, when he gets up. But I know it's gonna be good, but he's not, he's much more, he has been much more timid than me. So I know he's really thought about what he wants to say. Carol Wynn, Marathon Township. Years ago, in the late 80s, early 90s, I volunteered at schools and did a program that taught about making good choices. It was a program that I learned in the city of Detroit by a couple of women who they designed this program, and there were 7 lessons. And it went from making good decisions to being able to speak to an adult when things were not right, when the child knew things weren't right. But it dealt with drug abuse and different things. Late 80s, early 90s. And now what have we done? We told, I was teaching them, don't do drugs, make good decisions. Now what have we done? We've legalized marijuana. We've legalized it. And now it's really, I think it's probably pretty hard to make a good decision when you drink too much. I mean, that was the whole program. Anyway, back to, In Lansing yesterday, there were a couple of legislators who decided that they were going to take in a couple of American flags into the House because these votes were going on with the Elliott Larson. A couple of American flags. They were stopped at the door. And we're not allowed to bring those two flags in. But there were over 50, I assume they were rainbow flags that were brought in.
Yeah.
And they called it the LGBT flags. So that was I assume it was rainbow flags. But the American flags were not allowed to go in. Tells you a little bit about where we are and where we're going.
Right.
And the second thing is, I think there will be many, many groups that are going to form, I should say organize, to be visiting the great city of Lansing. And I just hope that you will all pray for these groups, that there will be civility amongst those that are opposed and those who are for different things that they are pushing through. And I agree. Anna talks about her child not wanting to stay in the state. Michigan's the most beautiful state in the United States, as far as I'm concerned. Never been to Alaska. I'm sure Alaska's beautiful. But there are many of us that are saying, when are we going to be done? And I hope that we aren't. I hope that we're able to keep our state. I really are. I really am hopeful. And all of these things that are going on in Oakland County and different places, there's a meme and it says, it's called a smart city. Because if they called it a concentration camp, you might not want to live there. And I think anybody that's lived in a big city, you know it's all about keeping everyone controlled and everything convenient. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else in the public like to comment during the second public time?
Yes, my name's Rex Barth. I'm a local attorney in town. I am currently on the Community Mental Health Board. I put in an application last week. I'd like to remain on the board. I have a great deal of experience professionally and personally dealing with people with mental health issues. And I think I could be an asset to the board, so I hope you reappoint me. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to comment during the second public time?
Carol Brown, Mayfield Township. Probably everybody knows, but I'm gonna state it here. Michigan is a target state, and the whole United States is watching Michigan and what happens here. So don't be surprised about all these issues coming up, because they're watching us. They're waiting to see what happens, what's determined. Are the people gonna stand up? Are the people gonna cave? So that's just my comment. We're a target state, and be aware of that and stand firm.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the second public time?
I appreciated Carol Brown's comment. That was awesome because it's sort of something related to what I wanted to say. I believe that ERIC stands for Election Registration Information System. I could have that wrong, but it's something about elections. I know that it's something that came up in the past to help states clean up their voter rolls, amongst other things. A couple of states recently have gotten rid of them because it's not doing what it really, it's not very effective. And what she said about Michigan, I know that up at the top, maybe it doesn't look so good, but we don't look so bad at, like in our local areas. And I think it would be awesome if some of our clerks would really start to look into ERIC and whether they think that that's the right thing, because if they don't, they have to look at it first, make an opinion, have an opinion about it, and see both sides of what people think. Then they could say something to our Secretary of State. Of course, it would take more than one clerk, but you got to start somewhere. Thanks.
Thank you, Anna. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the second public time?
Hello, Gabriel Lossing, Deerfield Township. First, I'd like to thank Commissioner Hamilton for nominating me for the Region 5 Planning Commission. If you guys have any questions about that before the vote, please let me know. Another thing that I'd like to mention is, we're all really concerned about the community mental health. And one thing that, I'm 100% against the geofencing, but I was thinking maybe we should put that, if we're gonna do it, we should put it around the library. Since if you look statistically, the LGBTQ A through Z, whatever it is now, they're statistically higher to commit suicide. So maybe we should look into that.
Thank you, Mr. Lessing. Anyone else from the public like to comment during the second public time?
A new face.
Come on up.
My first time approaching the new board, so welcome new board. Mr. Zender, Mr. Howell had the pleasure of my comments in the past. So I found the conversation about geofencing kind of eye-opening, if you will. I didn't know this was going on, but related a couple different ways. I have never been to any of the facilities. I've never been in the parking lot at an adjacent store. And yet, on Facebook, as wonderful as that is, I get these from the Lapeer Health Department about safe storage of my marijuana, the dangers of, and I just assumed that was a sponsored ad. I never looked at it. I will look at it now. And I was sitting back listening to this conversation, and I thought, how is this possible with the geofencing? The former Lapeer Gold and Diamond is right on M24 across from Apple Tree. And that building is at best 100 feet from M24. What is the margin of error for my location on my phone? And it now makes sense. I get stopped at that stoplight quite frequently. Is that pinging me now that I'm a frequent visitor of that marijuana establishment? And that's why I'm getting this information on my phone about the dangers of? It's possible. Because I know of where the other facilities are at, and I am on Emily City Road or what have you. I've never had any need, nor have I been in any of those parking lots or any of the businesses along there. So that's the only thing I could figure it out. Back to the chair's comment about I like shoes. This past weekend, I was at Somerset shoe shopping. I like Rockports. My wife refers to them as old men's shoes. I don't care. I was at the Township Hall lunchtime, and we were talking about the shopping experience. And went back to my office. I got a call to the clerk's office to come over and look at her computer. We were having this conversation. It now had sales ads on her computer for Rockport shoes.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have my phone with me. They had their cell phones because they were eating lunch. I wasn't eating lunch. But just food for thought. I mean, she did not look at that. We were simply having this conversation about us shopping, and all of a sudden on her computer, she was getting ads for Rockport shoes. So we are being tracked, irregardless of geofencing or otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment during the second public time? Okay, we're gonna close the second public time. And do we have a motion to
I
go?
will motion to go into closed session. Can we take a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
Was that the discretion of the chair?
There is a motion.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what they're doing up here. Sorry.
I motion for closed session, sender support.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, we do? Lynette, do we need to, okay. Thank you, Gary.
Commissioner Hagedorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Howell.
Yes.
Commissioner Nisley.
Yes.
Commissioner Mass.
Yes.
Commissioner Zender.
Yes.
Chairman Coleman.
Yes. I'm gonna recess.
There you go.
Yeah.